Daryl, Megan, thank you so much. It's getting more and more exciting here as we are just about 11 minutes until liftoff. Things are still looking great for both Falcon 9 and Dragon. Falcon 9 began loading propellants at the T-minus 35-minute mark. We should finish around the T-minus 2-minute mark. Right now, densified liquid oxygen is loading and continuing on the first stage. And again, this is going to wrap up around the T-minus 2-minute mark. The Dragon mission director and team are reporting no issues. Communication checkouts are complete. The crew access arm is retracted. The launch escape system is armed, and the crew is strapped in and ready to go. Final instructions to the crew come in at the T-minus 10-minute mark. The crew displays will be configured for launch. This setup gives the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding and provides constant update on vehicle health. At T-minus 5 minutes, we'll be in terminal count, and the Dragon will transition to internal power. And we'll hear continued callouts on the countdown nets as we get closer and closer to liftoff. Range and weather are both green. Right now, I am joined by Dan. Dan, after ascent, we're going to hear some callouts for different types of abort modes, right?
Yeah, that's right. On the way uphill, you'll hear.
SpaceX, please confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
Freedom confirms. Displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX copies Crew 4, and on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, we're honored to have you aboard Dragon Capsule Freedom today. It has been a privilege working together to prepare for this launch to the International Space Station. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and time to let freedom fly.
Copy, SpaceX. We'd like to take this opportunity to extend our thanks to our NASA, SpaceX, international partner teams, and most of all our families for getting us to the threshold of this amazing opportunity to launch to the International Space Station with Kennedy Space Center. A heartfelt thank you to every one of you that made this possible. Now, let's let Falcon roar and freedom ring.
Okay, so crew displays are configured. The crew just reported they're good to go. They're ready to launch. Saw a couple of fist bumps there. But yeah, as you mentioned, we'll hear a couple of different call-outs on the way uphill, a combination letter and a number. You'll hear 1A right at liftoff, and these just correspond to the different abort modes. There's 2 for the first stage, and then A through E for the second stage, and these are telling the crew essentially which direction Dragon's going to be pointing when it performs a burn of those Super Draco engines. Also gives you an idea of where they're likely to come down if we have an abort on the way uphill. But you'll hear those throughout the flight uphill. You'll also hear a number of call-outs from some of the key positions on the Falcon 9 team, the guidance, navigation, and control officer, and also the prop lead. And we're going to be looking to hear trajectory nominal, propulsion nominal, just as we make that flight uphill. It's going to be about a 9-minute trip from ground to orbit, and right now we're just 8 minutes away, and we've got a couple more events coming up starting at right around 7 minutes, right, Andy?
Yeah, in about 50 seconds at T-minus 7 minutes, we're going to begin engine chill on the first stage engine. This is where we inject a small amount of super chilled liquid oxygen into the Merlin engine turbopumps before letting the full flow of LOX during ignition. So we do this in order to make sure that we don't shock the engines because liquid oxygen is so cold. We actually do the same exact things for the second stage engine. That happens during ascent, but we should hear the call out after liftoff for that as well. And again, that is coming up in about 15 seconds, and we should hear the call outs over the nets.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
And that was the call out. So again, a small amount of super chilled liquid oxygen being flowed into the Merlin engine turbopumps. Those 9 Merlin engines on the bottom of the first stage.
All right, now we've got a couple more events coming up. Right at about T-minus 6 minutes, so in 40 seconds from now, our next prop load milestone will be complete. We'll have all of the RP1, the fuel for stage 1, fully on board. It's at about 99% right now, so we should hear that any moment. After that, we'll hear a number of call-outs related to the Dragon flight computer. They'll get ready to configure for terminal count and then move on
Stage
to
1,
internal power.
RP1 load is complete.
And there we hear the RP1 load is complete, so we got that a little early. So all of the RP1, the refined kerosene, is on board the Falcon 9. Both the first stage just completing. We already heard that the second stage completed a short time ago. Coming up, we're going to hear the call out for Dragon to transition to configure for terminal count and then transition over to internal power. And then we'll hear the propellant tanks on Falcon 9 getting ready to pressurize, adding some additional rigidity and structural support as we get ready for the strong back to retract. It'll move just a couple of degrees at first, and then we'll see it swing open completely at the moment of liftoff. And that strong back providing access to Falcon 9. It's also providing all of the fueling lines and umbilicals for both prop load and all of the different gases being loaded on board the vehicle. So those are coming up. We're going to continue to check through a couple more fueling milestones as well. The final one we're going to hear is at just 2 minutes before flight when we get the liquid oxygen finished on board that second stage.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count. Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
So that call out that we just heard, Falcon 9 is beginning to pressurize for the strong back retract. So if you look closely on the left-hand side of your screen, or excuse me, the left-hand side of the vehicle, there is a large truss structure. That is the strong back. We have some clamp arms just at the bottom of Dragon. In about...
Retract sequence has started. Stand by for kiloarm movement.
Well, right now, those clamp arms are beginning to open up. You can see them right behind all of the white clouds around the vehicle. Once that is fully open, then the strong back structure will retract away to its pre-launch position about 2 degrees away from the vehicle. And as we get closer to D0, it will continue to recline back to make room for Falcon 9 and Dragon to lift off and clear the launch pad. And so here's a great shot of those clamp arms at the bottom of the screen, opening wide open. And we should see that structure to the right of Falcon 9 and Dragon begin to recline away from the vehicles. This whole sequence takes about a minute, a little over a minute to fully complete, and we expect this to complete in about 15 minutes. 15 seconds. So you can see on screen that strong back is beginning to recline away from Dragon and Falcon 9.
All right, now coming up next is going to be the finish of loading that liquid oxygen on the stage 1. We finish up on the liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
There we go. All of the oxidizer loaded onto stage 1.
Yep, and in about a minute here, we should hear the last call out related to propellant. That's going to be stage 2 LOX load complete. And again, that is the last of propellant loading on the vehicle.
Dragon is in terminal count and on internal power.
And as we wait for that call out, all of the white clouds that you're seeing on screen, that is normal and expected for us at this stage in the countdown. We'll continue to see them build up as we get closer and closer to D0. We want to make sure that we are keeping the tanks as full as possible, and the warm ambient air of Florida is helping to create those clouds around the vehicle.
Coming up on 2 minutes until liftoff, standing by for stage 2 LOX load being completed.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete. Dragon is in auto idle.
All right, Dragon's flight computer and auto idle. Next, it'll flip over to countdown.
Expect loud venting.
Gas closeout has started, so we're now isolating all of the feed lines for the different gas systems from the Falcon 9 rocket. They're going to then get vented. Hear that venting start. They're going to get vented overboard. through umbilicals and through the strong vac itself. Coming up at T-minus 1 minute, we're going to hear Dragon is in countdown. Its flight computer will switch to countdown mode. We'll also hear that the flight termination system on Falcon 9 is armed. Falcon 9 will move into startup and take over control.
FTS is armed, Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling. Dragon is in countdown.
Dragon's flight computer in countdown. The FTS, that flight termination system on.
Freedom, SpaceX, go for Crew 4 launch.
Freedom is go for launch.
SpaceX reports go. Crew reports
T-minus
go.
30 seconds.
You heard it there. 30 seconds away from liftoff. T-minus 20.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon. Let freedom ring. Guidance stage 3-4. Vehicle is pitching downrange. Copy 1 Alpha.
Freedom soars and the Dragon flies forward. Vehicle already pitching downrange. All 9 Merlin engines have lit.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Getting good performance on stage 1 propulsion already.
We are T-plus 35 seconds into the 4th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and the Falcon 9. The 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage are beginning to throttle down.
Stage 1 throttle down.
In preparation for max Q. This is where the vehicle will experience the highest amount of aerodynamic pressures, so we'll throttle down the engines in preparation for that event.
Vehicle is supersonic.
All right, so we've passed the speed of sound. We're already
Max Q.
And there's our call out for max Q.
Stage 1 throttle up.
So right after max Q, we will begin to throttle those engines up again.
Copy 1 Bravo.
And 1 Bravo, so we're in the second and final abort mode for the first stage. Continuing to get good performance though. The crew already pulling in excess of 2 Gs. And coming up next is going to be a couple of events in rapid succession.
Yep, in about 10 seconds here, we're going to be performing engine chill on the second stage MVAC engine. And then in about a minute, we're going to start off with MECO, also known as main engine cutoff. This is where those 9 engines that you're seeing ignite on, being lit up on screen, those are going to cut off in preparation for stage separation, where the first and second stages will separate from one another, and then the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite and continue to carry our Crew 4 astronauts to orbit.
We heard that MVAC chill has started.
Stage 1 throttle down.
The 9 Merlin engines starting to throttle down. And standing by for MECO.
And MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
So MECO, stage separation is confirmed.
Stage 2 Alpha.
And ignition.
You see that
Copy,
second
2 Alpha.
stage engine light. We're in 2 Alpha, the second abort mode. The second stage is lit, continuing to carry the Crew 4 astronauts onto orbit.
And this is a fantastic view. On the left-hand side, this is the first stage, now separated from the second stage, but it's still being illuminated by that single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage on the right-hand side of your screen. So right now, the first stage is making its way back to Earth to attempt its 4th landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas. The crew is on the opposite side of the engine that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. They are continuing with their journey to outer space.
Seeing good performance on that lone Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. The cruise G-load dips right when we hit that separation event, and it's going to continue to build up now. Shared acquisition of signal Bermuda. That means we're
Dragon,
now...
SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Freedom copies, nominal trajectory.
That was our guidance, navigation, and control officer. Nominal trajectory. Dragon's pointed in the right direction, continuing its flight to orbit. We heard Bermuda called out. That's one of the ground stations now receiving telemetry from the Dragon as it continues its path uphill. So we'll have the dueling boxes here for a while as the first stage makes its way down. That second stage going to continue firing until about a little over 8 minutes into the flight. Doing the heavy lifting now.
The first stage has a couple of events itself in order to land on a drone ship. So at T plus 7 minutes and 25 seconds, it's going to start its entry burn. It's going to be one of 2 burns. This is where 3 of the 9 Merlin
Dragon,
engines
SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
on the first stage will relight and burn for about 30 seconds in order to slow the vehicle down before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
Acquisition of signal, New Hampshire.
All right, now on the New Hampshire ground station, another call out there from our guidance, navigation, and control officer, nominal trajectory. Second stage continues to power. Call out just then, propulsion is nominal, the engine performing as expected. Crew pulling a little more than 1.25 Gs right now. Again, that's going to continue to ramp up, peaking just before we get to that second stage cutoff.
Yep, this single engine here, Dan, can produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space, so they are definitely feeling it.
And we're already about 200 kilometers in altitude.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Freedom copies, nominal trajectory.
Great call out that we are headed in the direction that we need to, and we just heard from Chell, the commander.
And we should get one more of those trajectory check-ins in about 30 seconds from now. And then we'll start to hit our events in rapid succession as the first stage continues to make its way back home. And the second stage will start to wrap up its job of delivering these astronauts into orbit.
Yeah, we don't see it on screen right now, but the first stage is making its way back to our drone ship in about...
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
In about 30 seconds here, it's going to start its entry burn.
Freedom copies, nominal trajectory.
And there was the other call out that you were mentioning, Dan, about trajectory. Things, again, continuing to look very, very good for the ascent portion.
Stage 2, flight termination system.
So for those just joining us,
Stage
we
1,
are
entry burn startup.
just under 8 minutes into flight. We have 4 astronauts as part of the Crew 4 operational mission. You can see on the left-hand side, this is our first stage with 3 of 9 Merlin engines reignited and slowing down the first stage before we hit the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere. So this first stage has one more burn left.
Burn shutdown.
That's going to happen just before the T plus 9 minute mark, and then we'll attempt landing for the 4th time on a drone ship that's currently parked in the Atlantic Ocean.
So as that entry burn completes,
Terminal guidance.
we're in the final stages of the second stage's flight into orbit. We're about to pass through several of the different abort phases, which essentially correspond to areas along the very northeastern seaboard of the U.S. and then across the Atlantic and off the coast of Scotland. But continuing to get call-outs that stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
Copy, Shannon.
And the call out of Shannon, Ireland, that's
Stage 1 transonic.
indicative of our final abort zone.
And after this second stage engine shuts off its engine, we are going to be listening for the confirmation of a good orbit, which tells us that the crew and Dragon are where they need to be in
Stage
orbit.
1 landing burn.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
And
that was the call out that we wanted on the second stage. Here's a fantastic view.
We're glad to be in orbit.
Of the
Dragon,
first stage.
SpaceX launch escape system is disarmed.
Fantastic view of the first stage.
Deployed.
Landing legs have been deployed, returning back to Earth for a fourth time. And just like that, a fourth landing as part of the Crew 4 mission. You can hear the applause behind us. But prior to this,
Acquisition signal, Newfoundland.
we saw the crew, we heard that the crew has been successfully inserted into a good orbit, and this is them in 0G, and two of them for the first time.
And getting a look, it looks like we might have a couple of 0G indicators. I see a turtle in Bob Hines' hands. That is the nickname for the astronaut class from 2017, of which he and Jessica Watkins were a part. I believe we've got a monkey floating over by Samantha Cristoforetti. But first view of Crew 4 on orbit, experiencing microgravity. They're still attached to that second stage, which at this point is going to continue to coast for a couple of minutes. It's got small reaction control thrusters on the upper part of the second stage that can be used to cancel out rates, essentially making sure that they're on a stable coast before we get to that separation event, after which we'll see Dragon Freedom flying free for the first time.
We've got, a couple of stowaways. The Turtle class really does seem to be taken over now with a Turtle 0G indicator.
All right, we should be just about a minute away from that separation, after which a number of activation checkouts occur automatically. First, checking out 12 of those Draco maneuvering thrusters all around the service section of the Dragon capsule. We'll also start to get ready for the nose cone opening, which it stays closed for the flight uphill to help protect all of those guidance, navigation, and control sensors. It's also covering 4 of the Draco thrusters that we're going to be using for providing the majority of the thrust, the push for these different phasing burns as Dragon chases down the space station. But all right, standing by for separation.
So typically we'll get a shot from the second stage looking at the unpressurized service section of the Dragon. And there it is. What a magnificent view. And looking like a good separation, good rates. Dragon Freedom flying free for the very first time. So again, now those Draco checkouts are starting. And pretty shortly we'll get to the nose cone deploy. And that's when they'll start to open up hooks that are holding the nose cone in place. And it sounds like that has begun.
And expected loss of signal, New Hampshire.
So though the crew, as we see them here inside Dragon, they have separated from the second stage, but they still have about a 16-hour journey before making it to the International Space Station and docking tomorrow, or today, later on today. but it is so great to see them flying free in space.
They do. And we did get confirmation that that nose cone deploy sequence has started. So again, those 6 hooks that hold the nose cone in place during the launch and ascent portions have to retract, and then the nose cone will be able to start to swing open and deploy, and that will uncover a number of critical systems for Dragon's flight up to the space station, not the least of which
Freedom, LD, I hope you enjoyed your ride. It's been an honor flying with you, Chell, Farmer, Samantha, Jessica. Have a safe journey to the space station. Say hi to Crew 3 for us, and we'll look forward to seeing you when you get home. Indeed, the dream is alive. Have some words from our CE.
Dragon, CE, privilege having you fly with us. Good mission. We'll see you later.
Hey, and from Freedom, we want to thank a big thank you to SpaceX, the Commercial Crew Program, and specifically the Falcon 9 team for a great ride. It is a privilege to get to fly this new vehicle, the Crew Dragon Freedom, to orbit. Huge thanks to the teams that assembled and prepared her for flight. We're feeling great and looking forward to the view.
All right, so some congratulatory words from the launch director and the chief engineer up to the crew on board Freedom. Chell radioing down their thanks for the smooth ride to orbit. So, as Andy said, we've got about 16 hours.
And Freedom, SpaceX can confirm nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts.
Okay, Freedom copies. Equals activation complete. We're going to go visors up.
And that call from the core here in Hawthorne.
Core copies, here we go.
Indicating that we had good checkouts of those 12 Draco thrusters around the service section. There's 4 to go after we get the nose cone open and the ECLIS, the environmental control and life support system, activated and running inside Dragon. Crew will be able to get their visors open and pretty soon get out of their suits and settle in for a 16-hour ride to the space station.